Especially north. Tomorrow, most of us feel breezy. We'll look for highs with sunshine in the upper 30s and lower 40s. I'm KIRO 7, pinpoint meteorologist Nick Allard.
Another beautiful fall afternoon right now. Sunshine and 43 degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Ursula Royteen.
Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk. Powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Big Lead is brought to you by 3010 Weight Loss for Life.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
Coming to you from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. Welcome to The Big Show. And oh, what a show we have planned today. You missed quite a show yesterday afternoon, Ursula.
I heard, although as I was driving home from being with my dad at the hospital,
yes,
I did hear some of the craziness.
Yeah, we had, it was basically 3 hours of live breaking news throughout the afternoon on the show, and a story that emerged out of that is going to be our top story today in just a moment, but lists have coming up for today's show.
I'm excited.
Dave Wyman will make his usual Tuesday, I shouldn't say usual, that makes it sound like it's routine.
No, his special
Tuesday appearance. And then I'm very excited about this. This evening on Channel 4, Steve Poole is going to do his final weather forecast ever. He has announced his retirement. He has been battling prostate cancer. It is in remission, but he says that he is going to step aside after about 40 years in the market. And he is not only a genuine Northwest broadcasting legend, but just as nice a human being as you'll ever meet.
I love hearing that.
Yeah, so Steve Poole is going to join us at 12:30 this afternoon to talk just a few hours before his final ever forecast on Channel 4 this evening. So looking forward to talking with him. And with all of that ahead of us, let's get right into The Big Lead.
The Big Lead. Top story.
Okay, so what I was just referencing to Ursula was yesterday, right about now, we had on a guy. He and his wife had seen their beloved standard poodle, Monkey, had been stolen. Monkey was in Carl's pickup truck when he went in to get a soda pop at the gas station, and a guy who was well known to police in Black Diamond jumped in the truck, drove off, stole it. And after 2.5 days of not knowing where the truck or their dog was, as we were on the air in the noon hour, I started to get word that the suspect had been killed by police. I could not say that as soon as I had the information because we had to wait for official confirmation from the police department of jurisdiction, which was King County Sheriff's. But we knew that the guy had been shot and killed. And we had other conversations during the show about how the Black Diamond Police picked up this guy on October 28th. He was violent, resisted arrest, had to be tased, started kicking the back seat of the police cruiser, doing thousands of dollars worth of damage. He'd had an outstanding warrant. That's what they arrested him on. He was homeless, no known address, a known drug user, a known criminal. And so this guy went before a King County judge. And the prosecutor asked for a $5,000 bond, which, the guy doesn't have any money, and his family wouldn't vouch for him to show up in court. So that probably means you're going to keep a very dangerous criminal locked up. But a King County judge decided to ignore the bond request and release this criminal on his own personal recognizance. This guy never should have been free. He never should have been free to steal that truck. And as a result of that, there was the police chase, and this criminal was shot and killed by police. And I said that I put his death certainly on himself, but this is a guy who it sounds like just had a long history of drug, probably mental illness, living on the streets, vagrant, no known address. How do you release somebody like that on PR when there's nothing to suggest that he's going to show up in court? And so I said, well, the judge has to bear some responsibility for what happened to this guy. Well, I will tell you that since I did the show yesterday, we reached out to the King County Superior Court. And the presiding judge, not the one who made the decision on this case, but the presiding judge and I exchanged emails last night and again this morning, and he could not come on with me this afternoon on my show. But this seems to be one of the biggest issues in our region, and that is this revolving door of justice, where criminals who you know are not going to show up in court, we have judges who are just letting them walk free. And I have never had a chance to talk to a judge to get their perspective on why they make these decisions and how prevalent this seems to be around here, as we have these recidivists who have committed 50, 75, 100 crimes, and they just continue to walk free. So I will tell you that the presiding judge for King County Superior Court will join me tomorrow at 12:30 here on the Dori Monson Show. And as I promised you yesterday, I will be dogged in my pursuit of trying to get answers as to why these decisions are made about these criminals. So tomorrow, 12:30, the presiding judge for King County Superior Court will explain that, and I said, I need to have it explained to me and to my listeners, and we need to shine a light on what is perceived as a tremendous problem right now with our judicial system. So I'm very happy to tell you that they are going to come on and answer my questions about all of this on tomorrow's big show. Meanwhile, you have one judge in Seattle who is trying to stand tall and stand strong against all of the madness. His name is Ed McKenna. Ed McKenna, while so many judges and our city prosecutor, Pete Holmes, they let criminals walk free. Ed McKenna gives them, often if they deserve it, the maximum that he can give them. And I will tell you, coming up this evening on Channel 4, reporter Matt Markovich, he tipped me off to a story, a two-part story that he is working on. Part one is tonight, but he talked with Seattle Judge Ed McKenna, who, by the way, and this is really interesting, Ed McKenna filed a complaint against himself. And Matt Markovich explained why this happened.
Of adversaries, Holmes and Anita Kondawal, the director of public defense for King County, sent a public letter to McKenna accusing him of improper conduct, that he should recuse himself from criminal cases because his harsh sentences do not show impartiality.
Okay, and what they were talking about in particular was a guy named Francisco Calderon, who had 72 convictions, 14 of them assaults. Francisco Calderon appeared before Seattle Judge Ed McKenna. And Pete Holmes, the Seattle City prosecutor, unbelievably wanted Francisco Calderon to walk free after having been convicted 72 times already. And Pete Holmes was very upset that the judge gave him a year in jail, which is the maximum a Seattle City judge can give somebody.
And we'd still go back to the same, let's lock him up. And then we're surprised when, completely unsupported, a homeless man with mental health issues and chemical addictions repeats. What a surprise.
Okay, so Pete Holmes, our Seattle City attorney, whose job is to help keep you and me safe, he's upset that a guy with 72 previous convictions was locked up for a year by the judge. Because he said, well, we need to get him help. We could have gotten him help after his first conviction, or his 10th, or his 25th, or his 50th, or his 70th. But if you let this guy walk free, Pete Holmes, I mean, it makes you wonder, is Pete Holmes high when he's, oh, wait a second, he probably is. But it makes you wonder about the thought process of somebody like Pete Holmes, who says, oh, no, we got to get the 72-time convicted criminal help instead of put him in jail. And I talked about this yesterday. Somebody texted me and said, what do you believe the point of our judicial system is? Rehabilitation or punishment? And I said, both. That as long as these guys know they can shoplift, they can break into cars, they can break into houses without any fear of going to jail, they're going to keep committing crimes. Now, if you want to get them help, here's what you do. You put them in jail for the maximum amount of time. You punish them for their crime. Then, at the end of their jail sentence, you offer them help. Every service we can possibly offer. It should be about punishment and rehabilitation. But this notion of it's an either or, which is the way the left is trying to paint it, the way the Seattle City Council is trying to paint it, Seattle City Council is saying, no. We should either lock up people or we should get them help. And we are so caring and loving, we are going to get them help. And that's how you have guys who commit 72 crimes, convictions, walking around free around here. And again, what was the judge's motive to let the guy who stole the truck and dog in Black Diamond go? He knew he wasn't going to show up. They weren't getting him help. And I believe that judge contributed to that guy's death by a large factor. So anyway, Pete Holmes was upset with Ed McKenna because Ed McKenna locked up a guy with 72 previous convictions in jail for a year. Now, again, listen to the Pete Holmes soundbite on this.
And we'd still go back to the same, let's lock him up. And then we're surprised when, completely unsupported, a homeless man with mental health issues and chemical addictions repeats. What a surprise.
But when you lock him up, Pete, you keep us safe from him for the time that he is locked up. And again, the victims are not even part of the equation in any of the thinking by these prosecutors and the judicial system. And so Ed McKenna, in an extraordinary move, when Pete Holmes was complaining about being too tough on a 72-time convicted criminal, Ed McKenna filed a judicial complaint against himself, as Matt Markovich at Channel 4, it's at comonews.com, reports.
And we'd still go back to the same.
Oops, that's the wrong one. Here we go.
In an unusual alliance of adversaries, Holmes and Anita Kondawal, the director of public defense for King County, sent a public letter to McKenna accusing him of improper conduct, that he should recuse himself from criminal cases because his harsh sentences do not show impartiality.
Think about that. His harsh sentences do not show impartiality. No, it shows that he cares about potential victims that are safe when these guys are locked up. But you have people who now have filed a complaint against a judge who's locking up these guys.
It was absolutely clear to me
This is Judge McKenna talking.
that the allegations were unfounded, false, misleading.
So McKenna did an unusual move of his own. He filed a complaint against himself with the Commission on Judicial Conduct immediately after the letter was made public.
It's important for me to, and for the public to know there is no basis for the allegations.
It's a confidential and secretive process, and for months, he couldn't talk about it.
I'm now making that information public.
In a September letter to McKenna, the commission found no improper conduct on the part of McKenna. And because of confidentiality rules, the commission can't even acknowledge there was an investigation.
My complaint against myself was dismissed.
Yeah, he was of course, he was doing his job. And this shows just how we have let a radical, bizarre, weed-smoking leftist, Pete Holmes, in charge of prosecutions in Seattle. The weed smoke, I know a lot of you smoke weed. It's not necessarily a negative. I know. You're getting all defensive. I could feel it coming through the radio. Okay, bizarre, radical leftist. I'll leave out the weed smoking part. But we're letting a radical be in charge who thinks that criminals should walk free and who complains about judges who give them sentences that are within the sentencing guidelines. That is what happens when you let radicals take control of our city attorney and prosecutor's office. And so I got an email during the show yesterday from listener Dan. Dan, why are you trying, or Dori, why are you trying to shame a judge for doing their job? Meaning the judge who let the Black Diamond guy go so he could commit crimes and eventually get himself killed. Why are you trying to shame a judge for doing their job? In America, a criminal suspect is presumed innocent until proven guilty. The purpose of bail is to ensure that the suspect shows up for their trial. The purpose of bail is not to keep them off the street. If you don't like it, you should be railing for a constitutional amendment. But the prosecutor got a $5,000 bond on this guy. And being a vagrant with no known address, there was a certainty that he would not show up for his court date, which, by the way, would have been today in King County Court if he wasn't dead right now. And so all I'm saying is, if you have somebody and you are certain they're not going to show up, which is, the case with so many of our illegals who commit violent crimes. You know they're not going to show up. And yet we've got people like Dow Constantine letting them walk free. So, no, I have great problems with it. But again, King County Superior Court judge will talk with me on tomorrow's show about this. But we got a criminal who's dead. We got a Seattle judge who actually gives tough sentences. And he's in trouble with the prosecutor because he locked up a guy with 72 previous convictions for a year. We've got a system of radical leftist madness that's putting all of us in serious danger around here. And that is your big lead for today.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
On a much different note, Steve Poole of Seattle broadcasting legend. His final forecast will be this evening on Channel 4, and Steve Poole will join me and you next here on the Dori Monson Show.